Though, obviously, we all watched the game. Or for those of you who didn't, the Timberwolves jumped out to a 30-point lead in the second half, or sorry, in the first half, led by Anthony Edwards and Carl Towns, who scored 27 and 28 points respectively. And all throughout the game, Minnesota did an amazing job of applying defensive pressure in the full court to Denver. Denver did a poor job of handling the physicality of Minnesota. And something we talked about in the previous show yesterday, talked about how Minnesota should look to slow down the pace of the game and use their size, use their strength against Denver, wear them out, and that's exactly what they did. No one outside of Nikola Jokic really stepped up. Sorry, no one really on the Denver team at all stepped up. Nikola Jokic didn't have the type of game that he's held at for his standard. Did not have a good game by his standard. Jamal Murray, could tell, was dealing with an injury with his calf. Aaron Gordon didn't have a game as well, even though he started out well shooting the ball. Reggie Jackson re-injured his ankle as well. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was not in rhythm as well. And there was no sign of DeAndre Jordan once again, which is something we talked about. And mind you, Minnesota was able to do all of this without Rudy Gobert, who was absent due to being present for the birth of his son. Congratulations, Rudy Gobert, on becoming a father. And Denver was not able to take advantage of that, of Minnesota missing their best defensive player. And so we know all that. We saw the game. We all saw it, and it was pretty glaring. By the way, I do feel more confident now about my pick. I did pick Minnesota in 6 games. I feel much more confident about that now. But I want to take a different approach to this, like I said. Something I've discussed on this show ad nauseum, granted a couple months ago, was the fact that the NBA was all in on the global market. It was all in on marketing the global athlete. It was all in on accepting the fact that the best players were in the NBA were no longer domestic but rather foreign. And the NBA was willing to accept this and was going, like I said, they were willing to go all in on it by marketing heavily Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid. And they wanted to tap into a different demographic. The NBA did, which is actually different from the typical mold that the NBA marketing has followed since the beginning of the modern era. All throughout the modern era of the NBA, up until about the past 4 years, it was led by domestic-born players. From Magic Johnson to Larry Bird to Michael Jordan to LeBron James to Kobe Bryant to Steph Curry to Kevin Durant. The list goes on. I mean, there's just no question. But these past 4 years, the NBA has started to change its mold and its marketing techniques in terms of shifting towards the global population. And there has been a slight shift, a slight uptick in the fan turnout due to the NBA marketing more towards the global audience. However, when the NBA was at its peak in terms of marketing and availability, there has always been a domestic player that the NBA was able to lean on, or put all their chips in that corner, for lack of better words. And it creates a sense of duality when you're able to have a foreign-born player that you're able to market to go along with a top domestic player. And you can tell which domestic players that the NBA wants to market or wants to make as the face of domestic players. Initially, it was Zion Williamson, but he was not able to stay healthy. And on a three-dimensional level, most of these guys tend to be MK Ultra program athletes, but I digress. So like I said, start out with Zion Williamson, that's who they initially wanted to be. the face of the domestic born players for this class, for this generation, but he has been unable to stay healthy consistently. And then it transitioned to John Morant, and John Morant was able to fit that mold for the course of about 7-8 months. However, his off the court issues and his health as well has become a factor. So now in comes Anthony Edwards, who fits the mold for what the NBA looks for when marketing their prime, their number one domestic athlete. He's charismatic. He works well with the media. He has an explosive repertoire to his game. He's exciting to watch play basketball. And he also has what you would call like a urban aesthetic, an urban vibe to him, while not turning off your more conservative viewers. And so Anthony Edwards fits that all. He checks off all those boxes. So the NBA has been willing to go all in with Anthony Edwards as their domestic player. And this didn't just start. This just didn't happen over the course of the last month and a half. This started up until I would say intentionally marketing Anthony Edwards as their domestic player. I would say started about around the time of the FIBA World Cup, when Anthony Edwards started getting a lot of publicity for his play, his level of play, and rightfully so, well deserved, because he was playing phenomenally. He was the best player on that team. That's when the NBA truly started to market Anthony Edwards as the guy, as the domestic player, and rightfully so. Listen, I was one of the guys that said early on that at the beginning of the season that Anthony Edwards has a legitimate chance of being MVP candidate. And in my opinion, I think he will get some MVP votes, as he should. But that's when the NBA truly became intentional about marketing Anthony Edwards as their prime domestic player, around the time of the FIBA World Cup last year. And this matchup between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets is prime marketing, prime viewership. This is exactly what the NBA wants. Pitting your domestic player, number one domestic player, against your number one foreign player in Nikola Jokic. That duality, it creates a bit of a stir on the subconscious level within the viewing audience. And that's what the NBA wants. It wants a little bit of polarity so it can draw and garner more interest from the viewers. And I guarantee you, I don't have the Nielsen ratings on me right now, obviously, that the series between the Minnesota Timberwolves and Denver Nuggets is more likely one of the highest, if not the highest, watched and rated series of the second round right now. Granted, or it will be, at least, when it's all said and done. And this is why the NBA likes to have at least one foreign player they always market and one domestic player they always not market. Similar to the dynamic, different in some aspects, but somewhat similar to the dynamic that the WNBA has right now with marketing, i.e. Angel Reese, in comparison to Caitlin Clark. There's nuances, there's differences obviously between the players, there's a little bit of racial dynamic as well. All that plays into the marketability. And the NBA is feeding off of that as well. And quite frankly, the NBA is smart in taking the pagebook out of the WNBA's marketing tactics in terms of that aspect. And so that marketing will be good for the NBA. But it's apparent to me that the NBA has gone all in on marketing Anthony Edwards as the guy, the domestic player that they want as their face for the next half decade at least. I mean, think about how now everyone's starting to say, well, Anthony Edwards is the next Michael Jordan, the next Kobe Bryant. He plays just like them. He has that dog, that Mamba mentality. No one was saying this a year and a half ago. Granted, Anthony Edwards has gotten phenomenally better. He has had a tremendous rise in his talent level in his game. He's worked hard. All that's true. The NBA is feeding off of that. That's all I'm saying. From a marketing tactic, it's smart. It's the right thing to do. It's the right move to do. I'm just pointing it out, making sure everyone else is seeing it as But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about this marketing tactic the NBA is using by creating and making Anthony Edwards the face, the poster boy for domestic born players. Love to hear all about it. But in our next segment, guys, we are going to be recapping the Game 1 matchup between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. So be sure to stick around for that, guys. You're not going to miss it. We'll be right back.